Hello, I'm Niamh Murtagh, and I'd like to talk to you about some research I've done with Alice Owen and Kate Simpson. First, some definitions. Our interest is very much on the domestic sector and on retrofit. So the term retrofit is usually related to energy efficiency, and it's about work that can include improving insulation, changing heating provision for greater energy efficiency. It can include better ventilation or more renewable power sources. The other term we'll talk about is RMI, standing for Repair, Maintain, Improve. And this refers to any general building work on existing properties. So the kind of work you might see going on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, where homes are extended, they might have changes in layout, they might have new kitchens or bathrooms, and so on. Energy efficiency retrofit is a particularly important aspect of action for climate change mitigation and for meeting commitments to the Paris Agreement. In the UK, as in many other countries, the majority of housing stock that will be lived in 20 or 30 years from now is already built. And across Europe, building stock is responsible for 40% of final energy demand. For the UK, the calculation has been done that at least 19 million homes need retrofitting within 15 years. And that's to meet a not terribly ambitious target as part of national commitments. So who's going to do this work? Well, our view is that it is today's RMI practitioners who will form at least the core of the army of workers who will be needed to achieve this. But we feel that academic work has relatively poorly served the RMI practitioners, that we really need to understand a lot more about their experiences and interests if we're to successfully engage them in retrofit for energy efficiency. We would say too that previous work that has looked at their involvement has perhaps over-relied on talk of drivers and barriers. And we feel that the use of a term like barrier is really a metaphor, and it implies that if we can simply remove a barrier, then the water will flow, the work will happen, and everything will be fine. But this very much flies in the face of psychological understanding of human behaviour, which says it's a lot more complicated than that. So we took a psychological theory called COM-B to apply it here. And COM-B stands for Capability, Opportunity, Motivation, Behaviour. And the framework is really about behaviour change. And what it says is that in order for a new behaviour to happen, there needs to be a set of factors under capability and opportunity and motivation in order for that behaviour to change. By capability is meant the internal resources that an individual has. So can they actually do the behaviour? Opportunity refers to the external factors. So does the context of the individual allow them to do that behaviour? And then motivation. So motivation talks about, does the individual want to make that behaviour change? So we applied COM-B to 31 interviews with RMI practitioners across England. This table presents just a few of the findings under capability, opportunity and motivation, giving the most prevalent themes. So we've given an indication of frequency, and by high frequency we mean that at least 2/3 of practitioners referred to this theme in their discussion with us. So under capability we found evidence for knowledge of their job, unsurprisingly, the technical knowledge they brought of how to make a construction project happen. But we found also a lot of evidence for knowledge outside the technical realm to do with coordinating people and resources in order to get a job done, to overcome problems and to deliver. Under opportunity, the practitioners did talk about regulation, and by and large they were in favour of more regulation on energy efficiency. They talked about markets and customer demand too, but here the view generally was that customers are not aware of energy efficiency and are certainly not asking for it. Under motivation, there were many factors that came in here, and the most common was pride. So the practitioners we spoke to took great pride in delivering a tangible product and a high quality product. And that linked to a very clear customer focus. Customers were particularly high in their priorities, and they really wanted the customers to be happy with what they delivered. It meant a lot to them personally. They talked about needing to make sure their business was viable and that they could make a living. But interestingly, this wasn't about profit or trying to maximise income. It was far more nuanced than that, and really they wanted to make sure that they could continue in business into the future. A few quotations just to illustrate key points. So the first one here, what I take pride in is that we had a Georgian house, 300 years old, 4 stories with 4 adjoining owners, worth about 5 million quid, and we excavated about 500 cubic metres of soil below, and we kept the house up. So the practitioner is talking about what's obviously a very complex project and its successful completion. So plenty of knowledge there, not only on the technicalities, but also on managing, for example, those 4 neighbours he talked about. And clearly pride in the outcome. Here another practitioner says, if you've built up a company for that amount of time, it doesn't really become just about money. It sometimes becomes about the guys that have been working with you for that period of time, keeping them going. And so this illustrates the point that maintaining a viable business is not just about profit. What he's talking about here seems to be about loyalty to people who've worked alongside him and with him over an extended period of time. And a final quote, I think on your high-end building work down south, you're building these energy efficient homes. That's more of an elitist job, if you like. There's certainly no call for it in Scunthorpe. Scunthorpe is a town in the north of England. And the practitioner here is illustrating that he does not see any demand from his customers for greater energy efficiency. So a few conclusions. Under capability and the factors of capability, we saw that it's not just technical knowledge that's needed, but it's also the knowledge to deal with people and to deal with resources. So managing a business, managing people, managing plans. Under opportunity, we could see evidence that the practitioners did not see market demand. And so policies that assume that the market will drive energy efficiency is just not borne out. When it came to motivations, we saw plenty of evidence that it's not about profit. It is about making a living, but it's not about simply money for the sake of it. It's about viability of a business, it's about relationships, about reputation, about loyalty. So our overall conclusion is that we need to move away from a simple assumption of drivers and barriers when we're thinking about how we can engage RMI practitioners in energy efficiency. There is a broad set of interacting factors which motivate them in their work and are important for their work, and these factors very much include human factors as well as business and technical ones. Thanks for listening. I look forward to your questions.